says there's no excuse. You've been loosed.
This is From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Each week, Janice shares her wisdom to enlighten, educate, and advance the culture in America today. Janice Pons is a mother, author, and free thinker, and your host for our podcast this evening. Now let's join your host, Janice Pons.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Come on in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Janice Pons. I'm the host on this podcast, From Destruction to Dignity, Clinical Perspective, Spiritual Truths. Tonight, we're going to continue our journey as we, the people. We have been focused on a specific path for months now, related to gaining a clearer understanding regarding how our nation is structured, yes, and how it's supposed to work. This flag and our presidential seal are great symbols connected to our amazing nation. And there are a lot of things on the line. Now, first, before we move forward, I got so much to cover tonight. Put your seatbelt on because we are going to go on a journey to get educated together. But I want to remind you, let's remember, we're going to give a shout out to the 210 million Christians in America who comprise approximately 62% of our population, along with the 1 million voices of rising. And guess where we're going? We're headed to the Washington Federal Mall on October the 12th. I'm so excited. The bottom line, we're going to have a day of fasting, prayer, singing praises unto our God. On behalf of this great nation, we're encouraging everyone all across this nation to start your own prayer hub or to join one that's already existing. We want to support the efforts of, and you go to this, hashtag Don't Mess With Our Kids. They got a whole network. We want to support Jenny Donnelly and all of that crew with the Don't Mess With Our Kids. Hashtag Don't Mess With Our Kids. It's a beautiful setup. We are standing in the gap for our great nation. So, as I've said before on Janice Pons, I've got about 1,000 or more, just a little more, of Christian conservatives, about 33,000 Facebook followers who are interacting on JanicePons.com. Now, we want to support this effort to get to the Washington Federal Mall on October the 12th of this year, 2024. If the 1,000 Christian conservatives that I have on my website that are constantly there interacting with me, if you get 10 Christians that you tell about us going to the Washington Federal Mall, if we get 10 people that know that from those 1,000, your families, your friends, your associates, those that you know, we're going to get closer and closer to our 1 million voices arising. That will cause us to reach 10,000 people. And then I want them to send us information about Don't Mess With Our Kids, hashtag Don't Mess With Our Kids. When those 1,000 share it with 10, we're going to have 10,000 people. Then they're going to send it to 10. And then we'll have 100,000 people. And when those 100,000 people share it with 10 people, we're going to have our 1 million souls on the Washington Federal Mall. Before our election on November the 5th is going to be a powerful, anointed time. So I'm going to be joining with the 1 million Mordecais and Esthers of men and women all over this nation. What are we going to be doing? Praying for our children, our families, our nations, this election. And for me specifically, I have a specific concern for the 265,900,000 Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck and can barely make ends meet. I'm in that group. The ones who are having deductions automatically taken out of our paychecks, and I've been covering where is that money going. So before we dive into the fiscal matters, because it's a part of the structure of our nation, I want to remind you something. We got an election coming up. I think it's one of the most important elections in the history of this nation. It's right around the corner. So what's really important in light of all the dynamics being presented to us? Who needs to be the leader of America? What is at stake? Does it matter at all? I've heard people say it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's at the White House. Is that true? Does it matter about a leader whether or not they're supporting issues that have been coined as perversion? Does it matter that there may be a promotion of men going into women's restrooms or men in the showers with women and girls during PE and even now in our military? Yes. Does it matter that there are young girls under the age of 16 who've actually had their breast removed to make them a boy? Does it matter that boys are being encouraged under a certain developmental age to actually have their genitalia removed? Does it matter that it's being promoted that you can be a boy one day and a girl tomorrow? Does that even matter to anybody? Is that important in our nation? Does it matter that there's a removing of God from any party platform or any conversation that's going on in our nation? Does it matter? Does it matter that our taxpayer dollars are paying for the sexualization of our children in our schools? Does it matter? And what leader, what candidate is promoting what? Does it matter who is being put in front of our children to read stories that they may be of a certain sexual persuasion? And that is what is being presented front and center to kindergartners as stories are read to them. Are the veterans reading to them? Are our senior citizens coming from nursing homes reading to them? Who is sitting before our children reading books? Does it matter that parental rights are being taken away and that parents are being arrested in the state of California for not going along with the sexualization of their children actually being arrested and put in jail? Does that matter in this election? My fellow Americans, there's a lot going on. Additionally, there are a lot of other truths that we need to take a look at. So we're going to move forward. We got an election coming up. I'm just telling you what they told me, and I'm paying attention and looking at real research myself. Listen to me. I've painted a clear picture all along about what's going on with our nation. Now, I want you to really lean into what I'm getting ready to say, because we're talking about the survival of America. Now, here we go. America is one nation under God with two coastlines, the East Coast and the West Coast. Right across from Alaska on the West Coast is Russia, and across from San Francisco is China and North Korea across the Pacific Ocean. Now, all of our enemies are on our West Coast across the Pacific Ocean. For the first time in the history of our nation, we recently had China flying bombers on our West Coast. Think about it. Now, my fellow Americans on the East Coast, across from the Atlantic Ocean, that's where all of our allies are. Great Britain, the European Union, NATO, and all our African nations. Yes, they're on the East Coast. Yeah, all of our allies are off of our Atlantic Sea coast. Yet, we recently had Russia essentially off of the coast of Florida with a warship that had hypersonic missiles on it that we don't even have. And guess what? We couldn't even fully track it. Just like America is one nation under God, I, Janice Pond, sit here today with one body and two hands. One is my left hand and the other is my right. I strongly and respectfully suggest that you get a pencil and a piece of paper, because we're talking about the lifeline of this nation. We're talking about the survival of America. And I want to challenge you to write down some things that I'm going to say. My left hand represents $30.2 trillion. That's the tax revenue that we collected in America from 2016 to 2023. I've covered this in episode 159. Go back and listen to it. My right hand represents $69.1 trillion. This is the tax revenue America needs to collect over the next 8 years from 2025 to 2032. The difference between these two numbers is the now $34 trillion debt, our national debt, plus the $4.8 trillion that we're going to collect this year in federal taxes. It's going to be automatically deducted from our paychecks. Go back and listen to episode 159. I've dissected this thing. I've done a lot of research. You want to understand it. Wisdom is a principal thing, but all that get understanding. Get wisdom, but we better get some understanding. Over the next 8 years, my fellow Americans and my brothers and sisters, it makes no difference whether we collect the $30.2 trillion or the $69.1 trillion. You know what? Because our only federal cabinet office that's fully funded right now in 2024, the only one, and we covered in a previous episode that there are 15 cabinet offices, but the only one that's fully funded right now in 2024 is our Department of Defense, which protects and preserves our freedoms from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. But these two numbers are going to make a big difference in the lives of 265,900,000 Americans living paycheck to paycheck who can barely make ends meet. It can mean the difference between getting our food from bread lines or soup kitchens or saving the nation's credit rating so we can continue to keep our store shelves stocked and buying foods. If you have any questions about that, look at Venezuela. Go look it up. Make no mistake that if we fail to collect the $69.1 trillion, our deficit will double. Why? Because it adds up by 2032. 8 years from now, goes by fast. Okay, so our deficit is going to double by 2032 between 60 and 70 trillion dollars. Right now, it's 35 trillion. By then, at our current interest rate, which is now 5.5%, that interest on that debt will be $3.75 trillion annually. And once we add the additional cost of our military funding, which is now $841 billion, they passed that bill earlier, a few months ago. That was the one they were able to stop squabbling over and pass. They together will consume all of our collected tax revenues. I'm just talking about numbers adding up. This will leave no money for our remaining pillars like education, healthcare, Social Security, retirement payments, plus all those other cabinet level offices. These numbers don't lie, my fellow Americans. We got some serious things. They got us so distracted and sliding off a slippery slope. These things are core to our nation. America just can't afford tax breaks. We're paying for the tax breaks that go to specific people that equates to $1.8 trillion and growing annual interest payments of $1.87 trillion. Not with annual tax revenues collected from the $4.44 trillion like in 2023. Do the math. Who will we pay? I did a whole podcast on that. Go back and listen to tax breaks. There's 180 tax breaks. Everybody doesn't get them. I get about 2 or 3. Now that I'm buying a home, I get extra. But it's a lot of dynamics going on regarding money. And we are imploding. Who on Capitol Hill is paying attention? What leader that's going into our White House is paying attention to this? We are vulnerable. Do we want to get like Venezuela? We better be paying attention, and I'm bringing attention to it because no truth is ever a lie. It's our government. That's why we fought the American Revolution. It's our government. And how is it working for us now? We are truly at the crossroads. Yes, we are. This election year is a very serious time. Yes, it is. We've already established that we're in trouble as a nation. And if we keep going in this direction, yes, this current madness that's going on, listen, we're going to end up somewhere and it's like, how did we get here? Why didn't someone say something? I am saying something. I've done a lot of research and I'm going to keep shouting the truth from the mountaintop. Somebody needs to. And there are a whole lot of others out there doing the same. Because we're reading and researching, and I've read a lot of original documents. Listen, my fellow Americans, my brothers and sisters, I'm going to pound these numbers into the ground as we're going into our election because we have to do something different to save our nation. Who's ever seen China flying over our west coast, Russia flying, floating down with hypersonic missiles that we don't even have near Florida? This has never occurred. Who's paying attention? I am, and you are too. Currently, listen to me, our national debt is $35 trillion. It got up to $35 trillion this year. I've been saying 34.1. Now it's 35 trillion. At the current rates, the interest on our national debt is $1.87 trillion. There are 265,900,000 Americans subjected to payroll taxes who are living paycheck to paycheck. 8 months ago, it was 240,000. It increased 25,900,000 in the 8 months. Who are doing what? Living paycheck to paycheck and barely make ends meet, trying to decide if they're going to get groceries or they're going to get gas. America collected from these people, we the people who are living paycheck to paycheck, collected $30.2 trillion over the past 8 years, from 2016 to 2023. Go do the math. Go look it up. Go to statistica.com. I've studied this stuff. I was blown away. That's what I'm talking about. All right. In 2023, we the people paid $4.44 trillion in tax revenues. Where are we headed as this continues to unfold? They're still taking it out of our paycheck. Where are we headed? In 2024, we the people this year are going to pay $4.8 trillion in tax revenues. This is what supports and pays partially for the 5 pillars that keep our nation running and functioning. Social Security, the military, the education system, healthcare through Medicare, and the interest of our national debt. God told me those are the 5 pillars, and he coined it. And he dropped it down. He said, Janice, those are the 5 pillars that undergird and support the nation. That's where we are. We know it's not enough to support our great nation. It's not enough money. What are we going to do? Borrow it from other countries and kick the can down the road for our posterity? Y'all deal with it. You won't deal with it. Is that responsible? Listen, somebody's got to come to the table with some solutions. I have a solution. I have some thoughts. Here's how we can save America, and it will have a major impact on us, and it's going to make us great, truly great. All working Americans, not just 265,900,000, everybody that's working, millionaires, from millionaires all the way down to the ones struggling, the 78% that are living paycheck to paycheck. All working Americans pay the same tax rate for 8 years. That's it. It's an 8-year moratorium to turn our great nation around. 8 for 8 to make America great. Do you hear me? Leaders, 8 for 8 to make America great. 8.55% on personal incomes, 8.55% be paid on corporate business taxes, and 8.55% be paid on federal excise taxes. Yes, look up excise. I learned a lot. What are excise taxes? What is that for? Go look it up. Go look it up. Let's get educated together. This 8-year moratorium will generate $69.1 trillion, which will eliminate our national debt by taxing productivity and consumption. Somebody said, well, I don't like that plan. Well, come up with something. I don't hear them talking about any kind of observable, measurable solution on Capitol Hill. Taxing productivity and consumption over the next 8 years. We're talking about 8 years, 8-year plan. This will eliminate our total national debt of $35 trillion and will even cover our $4.8 trillion tax collection for this year in 2024. It's called being fiscally responsible. This is what adults do. This is what people with solution-focused problem solving, they come to the table with solutions. We can do this or simply double our national debt. If we stay on this current destructive path we're on, we are going to implode. We have to pray for these precious people who are struggling and suffering. My fellow Americans, my brothers and sisters in Christ, listen. There are dynamics going on in our great nation that must have our immediate attention. It is dying. People are checking out, and they don't have to. If we had leadership that gave people a lifeline and said they're paying attention to us, they have a solution. We're coming together as a nation. This is what we do as Americans. We'll turn this country around and let me get in there and get involved with the mental health and the addiction issues. Oh yeah, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about. In our nation, we've heard so much about the Constitution, and you got people that want to get rid of it. Make it a living and breathing organism that we can change. You sit down somewhere and be quiet. Sit down and take several seats. Our Constitution is a law of the land. Listen to me. Why is it important for us to even understand the Constitution? Understanding affords us the wisdom of knowing why we need to unite. Why do we need even to unite and strategically move forward? All of this ties right into our topic that we're discussing tonight, the Constitution. How did it even happen? From any research, it's very clear that some deep dynamics occurred surrounding the establishment of our great nation. The Constitution was birthed out of the establishment of America. The kind of dynamics probably generated in the dynamics that went around the establishment of the Constitution. Listen, it was generated in an atmosphere where relationships were strained and true friendships were tested. Boy, we're in a season where that's going on now. And you know what God told me? You can take it to the bank. The wheat and the chaff are being separated. There's a separation. He ain't playing. He knows what's going on. God knows what's going on. The wheat and the chaff are being separated. And when this strain comes on and relationships are tested, tonight, from a clinical perspective, we're going to explore why some simply may not even have friends. Relationships are important, but there's some people, they don't even have friends. We're going to look at that. Friendship can be very important in all of our lives. But let's talk about this Constitution, because it is under severe threat. The National Constitution Center owns a, where is it? Where is the Constitution? The National Constitution Center owns a rare original copy of the first public printing of the Constitution. This printing was published in a newspaper, the Pennsylvania Packet and Daily Advertiser, when? September 19, 1787, 2 days after the Constitution was signed. What makes a Constitution worthy of our commitment? Why does it mean anything at all? First and foremost, the answer is our freedom. It is under a severe attack. It's on the line, guys. And just like those conservative Mertons marched down to Griffin's Wharf for that tea party and dumped those tea chests over, well, they said, boy, we got to stand up. We're going to lose it. And they fought for those 13 colonies that became the United States. It is quite simply the most powerful vision of freedom ever expressed, our Constitution. It's also the world's shortest and oldest national constitution, neither so rigid as to be stifling, nor so malleable as to be devoid of meaning. Our Constitution has been an inspiration that changed the trajectory of world history for the perpetual benefit of mankind. In 1787, no country in the world had ever allowed its citizens to select their democratic government. We selected that as we the people. What was revolutionary when it was written, and what continues to inspire the world today, is that the Constitution put governance in the hands of the people. The preamble of this historical document makes it clear why it was written. This is what it says. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, us flowing together as one, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, we ordained it and established this Constitution for the United States of America. What is the U.S. Constitution? The U.S. Constitution is the fundamental framework of America's system of government. It's the framework, guys. The Constitution, this is what it does. Listen to this. When I saw this, I was like, wow. Yes, Lord, thank you for helping me to see. This is what it does. It creates a government that puts the power in the hands of the people. The Constitution separates the powers of government into three branches: the legislative branch, which makes the laws, the executive branch, which executes the laws. What has the executive branch has been doing in the last 8 years? Okay, let's keep going, Janice. And the judicial branch, which interprets the laws. That's it. That was established in the back there when they set up the Constitution. What else does the Constitution do? What does it do? It sets up a system of checks and balances that ensures no one branch has too much power. It divides power between the states and the federal government. It describes the purposes and duties of the government. The Constitution defines the scope and limit of government power. It prescribes the system for electing representatives. Listen. See how unique we are? You see why it's in such, under such attack? Listen. The Constitution establishes the process for the document's ratification and amendment. It outlines many rights and freedoms of the people. Okay? That's powerful stuff to know. I didn't know it all in that detail. So, that brings up the Declaration of Independence, the 4th of July. The 4th of July. What's the difference between the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence? Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. But I know about wisdom, get understanding. We're getting an understanding. We got to understand our nation. Though connected in spirit, the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence are separate, distinct documents. The Declaration of Independence was written in 1776. It was a list of grievances against the King of England intended to justify separation from British rule. The Constitution was written and signed. It was written and signed in 1787. It was a charter of government that came to be ratified by the states, and it continues to be the supreme law of the land. We have a right to go all the way to the Supreme Court, as citizens. Both documents have played an important role in American history and the spread of democratic ideals around the world. People love our Constitution. They were both signed at Independence Hall, steps from the National Constitution Center, where it now stands. When and where was the Constitution written and signed? The Constitution was written, it was signed in Philadelphia, in the assembly room of the Pennsylvania State House. Wow, so much history there. Now known as Independence Hall. This was the same place that the Declaration of Independence was signed. The Constitution was written during the Philadelphia Convention, now known as the Constitutional Convention, which convened from May 25th to September 17th, 1787. It was signed on September 17th, 1787. The Constitution Convention was conducted under an oath of secrecy. These guys got serious. They said, we're going to buckle down. We're free from Britain. We're over here. We got these 13 colonies. Let's lock it down. So, this printing that is there, it represents the first time that Americans, we the people, saw the Constitution. The original signed, handwritten Constitutional. You know where it's at? It's at the National Archives in Washington, D.C. When I go there in October, I think I want to go see it. It has so much more meaning to me now. I understand the dynamics of establishing it. When did it go into effect? The Constitution did not go into effect the moment it was signed by the delegates. It needed to be approved by the people through the ratification process. Article 7 of the Constitution established the process for ratification by simply stating that the ratification of the conventions of 9 states shall be sufficient for the establishment of this Constitution between the states, so ratifying the same. However, the Constitution was a result of months of passionate, thoughtful deliberation among the delegates. Many others besides James Madison made important contribution, particularly those who served on the Committee of Detail, which included people such as Edmund Randolph, John Rutledge, a guy named James Wilson, Alexander Hamilton, William Johnson, Rufus King. Other notable people were Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, who became our first president. Important information. I love this stuff. I love history. I understand this nation. I understand the battle. Why was it written? The Constitution in 1787, Congress authorized delegates to gather in Philadelphia and recommend changes to the existing charter of government for the 13 states, which had been the 13 colonies. So we had the Articles of Confederation, which many Americans believe had created a weak, ineffective central government. From the start of that convention, my fellow Americans, it became clear that the delegates were forming an entirely new government, a new form of government. So, if the Constitution put the governance in the hands of the people, what implications does this present to us today when we see the dynamics that are strapping we, the people, now? This leads us into our clinical perspective. You can see I'm diving deep, but we got to know the truth. They have rewritten history. They do not want us to know the truth. This is exactly why I wrote the book, Stealing the Minds of America, a must for all truth seekers who vote. When I got into these original documents, I was shaken to my core. I realized that we have been lied to. Stealing the Minds of America, you can get it to JanicePons.com. And then subsequently, I did a sequel called The Scapegoat. Who's the most scapegoated person in America? Have we become a nation of scapegoats? JanicePons.com. You can get this ebook. You can get it through ebook. You can get it through paperback. And you can get it through audiobook. Yes, The Scapegoat. And while we're at it, Janice Pons for the Garden Country, my CD. I love America. Have you noticed? Okay? So, when I saw original documents, God said, you got to write it down, you know. I spent years in the library. I was blown away. And I saw that my mind had been effectively and strategically stolen, and I took it back. And God has been using me, and I give him all the glory, honor, and praise to help other people get their mind back. So having said that, there's a relentless effort to attack relationships. Can you imagine the dynamics that our founding fathers were confronted with in terms of issues that possibly affected relationships and friendships that they may have had as they drew the line in the sand to fight for their freedom and said, look, and this is what's going on now. People see these dynamics. People are waking up. The blinders are coming off. They are taking their minds back, just like me. They're realizing their minds have been effectively and strategically stolen. I'm gonna tell y'all what, y'all can get caught up in this Democrat Republican Party thing if you want to. We're down to America, and it's stressful. Yes, it is. But who's gonna stand up and tell the truth? Do you think it was stressful in any shape, form, or fashion back then? Is it stressful in any shape, form, or fashion now? Are you kidding me? I've gone through public smear campaigns. I've been ostracized and hated for simply speaking the truth. And I'm not the only one. But let me tell you what, there's a lot on the line. Our babies got targets put on their backs. There's a lot going on. Women in military got to accept the fact that they got to get in the shower with a man. Are you kidding me? Who's speaking up for them? And it's going to get on steroids based on who's in the White House. I'm going to drop that right there. Were friendships and relationships important in leadership? Let's examine that from our clinical perspective. Reasons that you may not have any friends. I can imagine that those who were instrumental in establishing the structure of our great nation realized that they had to set aside differences and work together. My motto on social media is what would happen if we talked to and with each other versus at each other. Oh yeah. They had a job to get accomplished. I'm a solution-focused problem solver. I come to the table, I want observable, measurable changes, and in my 44 years as a clinician, and moreover as a citizen who have gone through Jim Crow and gone to hell and back again and came out stronger and more loving and decided to get better and not bitter, I want to execute solutions for all Americans, we the people. Back then, as we're being put in the same position right now, the need to have working relationships. Listen, back then they probably learned that healthy relationships will get them much further in the tasks that needed to be accomplished. We're in the same position today. In that light, let's go ahead and examine something from a clinical perspective of what may affect one developing or not developing healthy relationships that may keep them from having basic friendships. If you want to be in a healthy relationship in any kind of way, whether friendship or a romantic partnership, you need to know and you have to show that you're a good person that people want to be around. If people don't want to be around you, do you think it warrants you considering why that's the case? Some people engage in horrible, toxic behaviors that are instant turn-offs to others, and they're simply not going to subject themselves to that type of abuse. And even those who may have been interested in furthering a relationship, they're just saying, no, thank you. My own mental wellness and my stability is far more valuable. What makes people instantly lose interest in engaging with another human being? Most of the behaviors are red flags. It's a red flag that further toxicity is there. And many of us stay away from folks who act like that. It's called boundaries. It's called healthy boundaries. It's called taking care of yourself. If you do any of these things, you may want to consider, and we support you, we love you, but we're drawing healthy boundaries. If you do any of these things, you may want to consider changing your habits to maintain friendships. Here's one: talking bad about others. Constantly tearing them down. Why? To build yourself up. Most people can see right through that, and it typically has the opposite effect. These types of people who constantly badmouth others only understand 24/7 drama that they usually create. They understand victimhood and negativity and are absolutely draining to be around. And you have to come to a point where you're like, you're not going to drain me. I got too much on the line, baby. God's got a calling on my life. And I got to have my strength and my focus on Him and what He's called me to do. And there are millions of us that have that same mindset. So sometimes we have to let people go. Purposefully making others uncomfortable. What affects friendships? When someone tells you that they're uncomfortable with something you're saying and doing, that behavior should be stopped. It's not cute. It's not fun. It's not flirting to continue that purposefully ramrodding over them. People are going to cut their ties. Kudos to them for setting those kind of boundaries. It's an instant turnoff when a romantic partner does stuff like, when I tell them I don't like something or something makes me uncomfortable, they continue to do it intentionally as if it's flirting or they got control. It's not funny when someone says that it bothers them and you continue to do it. It's not funny. Jokes are only funny if everyone is laughing. Intentionally creeping over boundaries is not exciting at all. It's actually very disrespectful. Don't do it. You will not have friends. People will not want to be around people that do that. Having a superiority complex. I heard somebody say a God complex. Confidence is great. I'm a very confident person, but it becomes problematic when you think you're better than everyone else. I'll never think I'm better than anyone else. I want to empower others. I'll take the back seat so they'll have the front. Listen, it's fine to be confident, but you're not going to put people down and in your confidence. You know what it's a sign of? It's a sign of insecurity, and it's not cute. Be on the same level, on the same playing field. No one's above anyone else. Treat others the same as you want people to treat you. If they're saying stop ramrodding over the people, they're not going to want to be around you. They'll draw a line, no more, over, nada, no, it's over. Respect others, or they're not going to subject themselves to that type of abuse. Mistreating service workers that you may deem as being beneath you. That's a serious red flag. First, no one's beneath anybody. One thing that God laid on my heart, if I go in the bathroom or see something that housekeeping would normally do, I pick it up. God said, plant that seed. You get it up what they would have gotten. People went ahead, housekeeping again. Let them get it. No, I'll get it. I'll get it. We're on the same team. I'll get it. Everyone deserves to be treated with basic human dignity. Here's another red flag. Listen, endless talking. Some people don't know how to let others participate in the conversation. Ramrod over it, dominate, talk over them, and they're going, hey. Are they going to stick around for that? They endlessly blather on and on and on about themselves, oblivious to other people. Not letting you finish your sentence before they jump in or you jump in. Listen to effective views. Listen, guys, we got to listen to each other. It's called basic, sheer respect, because if you don't, it's downright rude and it's annoying. It's a huge turnoff. It's overbearing. If you want to make and keep friends, you should involve everyone in the conversation. Lack of effort. Just lack of effort. Here's another one. All too many relationships, they're just one-sided. Just as one-sided as the date is long. Unfortunately, we can't always identify users immediately, but when we recognize they're using me, I'm being used and abused, it's a turn-off. The moment that I can tell that they aren't trying, either they aren't interested in me or it's all about them to get the work done, so to speak, you got to make a decision. Either reason is good enough to step away. Here's another one, lack of empathy. Empathy is one of the most important traits we can develop. It helps us understand others' perspectives and feel what they are going through. Can you get outside of yourself long enough to hear and empathize where someone else is? It's a powerful trait to develop and embrace. Lack of empathy is an instant turnoff in any type of relationship. People who lack empathy won't help when things get rough and won't care if you need help. Here's another one. Inability to be wrong. Definitely won't take responsibility for it and apologize. What's going on in your soul that you can't apologize? Engaging with people who refuse to admit they're wrong is exhausting. When all wrong, everybody's wrong. Everybody goes wrong sometimes. It's called the human experience. But if our egos are so fragile that we can't admit it, you're not going to have friends. And you'll live in a world all by yourself. Admitting you're wrong is only part of it. The inability to take responsibility for your actions after you have admitted you were wrong is also a huge turnoff. Can't even take responsibility. It won't come out of your mouth. Why not? It's okay to be wrong. I love when I say, you know what? Hold on. I missed that. Take full responsibility. And when you know you're wrong, you step up and you try to fix it. And here's a huge turnoff. Racism. Racism ideology is a huge turnoff. Many refuse to be friends with racists and cut that thing off in a drop of a hat. I've had people to say to me, yo, you and your white friend. Who are you talking to, man? You talking about my brothers and sisters? You talking about my brothers and sisters in Christ? Are you talking about my fellow patriots? Are you talking about them? Let's get scriptural with it. In him, there's no Jew, no Greek, no bond, no free, no male, no female, no male, no female. So it can't be any black or white. Listen, I'm ethnic. Whoa! I'm a FAB, a Foundation American Black, also known as ADOS, American Descendant of Slave. My ethnicity means something to me, but that's not who I am. That is my ethnicity. I am an American. I am a child of God, and I have brothers and sisters that are all hues, colors, shapes. Racism has no place here. Most people don't want to engage with people who can't respect others as a human being. Brutal honesty Let's look at that. Many people call themselves brutally honest as an excuse to say mean things without repercussions. D, I'm just being honest. It's time. And users are starting to call it out. You can be as honest as you want to be, but at least say it in a way that's nicer. That you're not bashing the crowd, you're not bashing people. Oh, too many people think that if they say that, I'm just being honest, gives them a free rein to be cruel. Being cruel. Cruel to people. I'm not taking it. And the rest of us not either. Don't nobody want to talk to anybody that's doing that. They're not going to show up and sign up for it. You can be honest while remaining tactful, nice. People will flock to you. They want to be with you. Most of the behaviors mentioned that I just went over, listen, they showcase, you know what it is? Flat out selfishness and negativity. Yes, it is. Selfishness and negativity. It's all about you. If you find yourself friendless, consider whether you act this way and try to flip the script. Try saying nice things instead of mean things. If you can't say nice things, say nothing at all. If you got to go there, just slow it down and say, look, you framed it. Let others get a word in while you're talking. Respect others' boundaries and show them you care just as much as they do. Be a good person. It looks like something. It sounds like something. It's observable and measurable, and you'll start developing excellent interpersonal relationships. Listen, we talked about a lot tonight. There's a lot going on in our nation. There are a lot of dynamics in America. I love America, and I love you. Listen, we are one nation under God. We're dissecting this Constitution. We're going to go further in it in our next episode. The Constitution, we looked at relationships. Listen, why? We are one nation, yes, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As we go together, you and I, from destruction to dignity. I will see you next week. Good night.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Janice's mission is to provoke thought, bring awareness, and point people towards intervention when needed. As a reminder, this show is not therapy, but for educational purposes only. For more information, check out JanicePons.com or follow her on social media.
We are one power, strength is ours, liberty, been set free, education, affirmation, dedication.